How many of you are Captain Marvel fans? Because for me, I thought it was a flat-out miss.
There is a leaking Robert coming to... Oh, and he flat-out missed.
The directors Borden and Fleck had this real choppy direction and editing style that didn't really pay off, but that's just to add on to the many inconsistencies this film had. The tones they tried to set as well were real uncohesive, making this film feel like it was split into 3 different pieces. At first, you get this dragged out, awkwardly pieced together, boring origin story. Then it becomes a weird space buddy cop film in a way. Then in the final act, it finally starts to become a Marvel film in a way, but it's way too late to turn it around where it's already overstayed its welcome.
What is going on here?
Captain Marvel was chock full of potential, with one of, if not, the most powerful superhero we've ever seen in the MCU, with the addition of a great villain core that possesses a real threat, and the fact that this is a prequel. This could have added great context to the movies we've seen beforehand, but instead, Borden and Fleck's execution fell absolutely flat, being very underwhelming, stale, underdeveloped, and cliche. Captain Marvel had a few decent ideas, but it isn't much more than a boring stepping stone to the saga, being a by-the-numbers, boring origin story with messy storytelling. In a weird way, it seemed like the team tried to subtly pick off the Guardians of the Galaxy series a bit, and it was completely obvious and did not work, because it was not funny, not cohesive, or have good, properly timed music. This film really doesn't have a whole lot of risks either, strictly because they make it as blatant as it can be that Captain Marvel is completely superior to everyone, making her character a near blank slate where they basically handcuff her the entire film up until the last half hour or so. Alright, sure, the characters in this film had their moments here and there, but overall, they all weren't that memorable outside of maybe Talos and Nick Fury for my money. So the thing is, Brie Larson is a talented actress, winning an Academy Award in the past, but this just wasn't her best work, where it seems she couldn't really find her groove or even a calm medium of attempts at different approaches. Her performance was pretty inconsistent and uneven, but a lot of that could be due to the writing.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
She didn't really bring much charisma to the character, being one of the bigger issues of the film, and it's tough to support a film when your main protagonist just doesn't cut it. The way her character was written did not help the case either. Her character was super underdeveloped and caged in, making her super boring. Don't get me wrong, it was nice to have Sam Jackson in the film as much as he was, but he really wasn't enough to carry this mess. His banter with Larson did have its ups at times, but that's where most of the filler and boring exposition came in. To me, the Skrulls had a really cool concept, but the execution was almost laughable and really misused. Jude Law was really underdeveloped, and his character arc is super predictable, making his character disposable. So when you have a misused protagonist and antagonist, where does the film succeed and warrant the billion-dollar box office?
You never know when you're gonna need to borrow some sugar.
And as for the other supporting characters, they were the driving force for a lot of people, but to me, they were all pretty annoying, underwritten, and not well acted. When it comes to the writing, the screenplay was super dry. There were countless quote-unquote jokes that had my theater laughing up a storm, but I was straight-faced almost the entire time, outside of maybe 2 or 3 jokes.
Oh, music. It's a nice touch.
One of my biggest questions is, how does a film that has so much exposition, where characters are either just sitting around and talking, or standing and talking, still somehow go underdeveloped? The writing was too much on the nose and flat out boring, with characters and plots not being properly fleshed out. The action in this film was so forgettable for me. The stunts and few action sequences they had were quite literally just fine, having no type of style or passion. They just tried to scoop by the numbers type of action, being handled so poorly with below average editing. For my money, the action's probably a top 3 thing everyone looks forward to going into a Marvel film, and there was probably maybe one halfway decent action scene halfway through, and then the oversaturated scene in the final act. As you can tell, Captain Marvel definitely is one of my favorites of the MCU. Man, was I disappointed. 3 out of 10.